Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Jitsi Community Call. There are many people from our team not attending, but we'll um, we will make a quick summary whoever has an update. So I can start. I don't remember whether we mentioned the previous time that there was a long-standing bug about screen sharing, and it was actually about the video turning on, seeing connectivity issues from time to time, and that was fixed and deployed on me Jitsi. I don't see so here, but there was a bug for mobile and iOS 13 that was fixed, and update was rolled out yesterday, I believe. And nothing from my side. Um, Anybody from the team have an update? Aaron, Jacob, Christo?
Nothing
No.
on my
Nothing
side.
from me. Nothing from Aaron.
No update.
Yeah, I've been out for 2 weeks, so
Yeah, same here. It was the vacation period for some of us. So if there are no updates, that seems to be a very quick one, so we can jump to questions. Jonathan, do you have anything to add? No. Okay. So yeah, open mic. Anybody has questions?
Hello, maybe I can introduce myself if it's okay.
Yep.
I may have some questions as well. Yeah, it's my first time here on the GT community call, so I've exchanged some message with the Mencho on the community forum, and we are starting a project to work on virtual networking based on having a platform for virtual meetups that will also allow virtual networking behind afterwards. And we were using Jitsi, especially the meet.jitsi platform that you have, and you'd like to understand a little bit what are the bottlenecks, until what extent should we use it? Should we deploy our own servers? If you can give us some insights and tips on how to proceed with this, it's more I really appreciate.
We have many people using it. It's your choice whether to deploy your own and take care of your own deployment. Of course, you will have more control when doing that. And yeah, other than that, I don't know about the bottlenecks. Currently, we're running in 6 regions, I believe.
7 regions, actually.
7 regions. There are no limitations right now.
I think we're at 50 people in a single call is the limitation for Meet.
Okay. Yeah, I really love what you are doing here on this platform and on this project. So we ran a call last week or so with 9 people, and we feel that sometimes the people were taking too much time to connect, or it was dropping the connection afterwards. Do you have any idea why this happening? Because it also happens when I do smaller calls with people, like 3 people joining. After a certain period of time, someone drops, and then it takes some time to log in again.
mean, that sounds more like a problem with the individual user's network, wherein if they have a lot of packet loss or their connection drops,
Okay.
reconnecting, we sort of set a timer and then reconnect them. As far as if you're having a really long time initially connecting, that can also be the participant's bandwidth, but maybe the rest of the team might be able to shed anything else if you have ideas.
Thank you. So it means that if you deploy our own servers in Bridge, it will not solve this particular issue of people taking a lot of time to connect.
Well, if you have those servers in Bridge very close to those people, and or you can help those people have a better network connection optimized to those places, then great. If you're running your own VPNs or your own, private site-to-site networks, all that kind of stuff is a great candidate for launching your own service as well.
Okay. As we are bootstrapping, we try to use the meet.jitsi.
Yeah, and that's my recommendation in general. We try to leave that scalable. We try to leave it routable from many locations. And the only issue is it's the connection quality between the end user and Amazon's networks. So that's not something we can really optimize. However, we can sometimes give you feedback later about whether or not we think that was the problem or who the problem participant was. So if you have a particular problem call you'd like to bring our attention to or something, you can always email support, and as our best efforts, we'll try to understand what happened, and maybe you will expose a problem in our platform.
Okay, that's great. So we'll keep for the next session that we are really bootstrapping. So the next session we're gonna have, maybe I will contact you also before or afterwards, and if you want to join us
afterwards. It's mostly what we need to know is what the URL was and what the relative time was in which time zone, and then we can check out some of the stats about what went wrong.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Aaron.
Absolutely.
And everybody.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly ask, curious, in which region were your tests?
We had people a little bit from Europe, US, and if I'm not wrong, maybe someone from Australia or New Zealand. I don't know. So it's a little bit spread.
Okay, thanks.
Hi guys. Hi. I have a following question. So we're actually thinking about multi-tenant deployment of Jitsi Meet, and I would like to ask what is actually the general approach and general recommendations for multi-tenant setup for Jitsi.
Can you specify what you mean by multi-tenant? Do you just mean
actually
clarify your use case?
Yeah, we would like to share the one deployment of Jitsi Meet for multiple tenants, but have, for example, security restrictions for users, so that users from one tenant, from let's say tenant A, would not be able to access meetings from another tenant B, let's say. And actually, so this means we would like to share, not to share like one deployment of Jitsi for multiple users and scale them eventually, instead of having one deployment per one tenant.
Yeah, I understand your use case now. Your best bet, so the things you'll be needing that Jitsi does not provide you is an identity system and some method of signing and creating, signing, and acquiring tokens that will then identify your users. Once you have them identified, you can probably modify some of the existing code in the open source Jitsi Meet prosody modules to enforce some amount of the URLs. We've seen it done where you can enforce that some subdirectory like /Apple versus /Orange, and people from Apple can't get into Orange and vice versa. And so /Apple/MyMeeting or /Orange/MyMeeting would be distinct URLs. And then you can enforce that inside Prosody. But there's quite a bit of customization that goes into that. So you'll have to think through, how are you identifying your users? How are they acquiring these tokens so that they can be pushed into a Jitsi meeting with the token enabled? And then how do you refresh those tokens and manage their identities? And finally, how do you enforce that stuff on the Jitsi Meet server? And the Lua modules are the way to do it for Prosody on the server side. And you'll need to do a little bit of tweaking there, but mostly the code there should validate tokens and allow you to say, as long as you follow the right token spec, which is in the Jacofo repository, you'll be able to craft your tokens such that users will be allowed into one meeting and not the other. So it's possible. It will take you quite a bit of work, and you'll probably need to open a community ticket or two to, get a little bit of tips here and there as you go through. But it is a supported setup. You'll just have to do a bunch of customization.
Okay, as far as I understand, all this is can be achieved with JWT token and mostly with Prosody modules.
Yes,
I have seen that,
correct.
for example, there are some examples in the code, for example, for Slack integration, where tenant is put in context group name, in context group claim, JWT token claim, as well as in sub claim.
The sub claim, which I have. This was a decision we made a long time ago that I still regret. It is not following the normal JWT spec, but it is how we implemented it. You can see on the thing that is using that subclaim is in the Prosody module section of Jitsi Meet. In that project, we have all of the mod auth token and the utility libraries around parsing these tokens, and you can see how we use that sub to validate a parameter that also comes in when the user first comes in, which is sort of the what do we call it, the tenant or the subdomain in which the room exists.
Okay, I have seen that in module mod token verification. You tenant domain user, but say user domain is taken from sub claim of JWT token. And does this mean that if I put different values into sub claim in JWT token, does this mean that users with different values in this sub claim will not be able to join meetings of each other?
That is accurate as long as you've also set up the Jitsi meetings to have those same subdirectories or modules, which actually takes a little bit of Nginx foo and a little bit of config.js foo that probably hasn't made it into the open source. So if you want to open a community ticket or contact me privately, I can walk you through it. But the basic idea is instead of using the default conference muck, we use a conference muck that's actually uses this tenant in the host part of the muck name. So you still have room name at conference.tenant. Say meet.jitsi, for instance. And then we have a submodule in Prosody that's also adapting those to be real mucks on the real conference muck. I'm not sure that module's come out either, but we can look at open sourcing that one. If you use those together, then the config.js change plus the Prosody change will allow this module to work. But you need those other two things. You can't just start setting subclaims and use the module directly. You also need that third piece of making dynamic conference mucks available.
All right. So you're saying that I can contact you after this call about it?
Yeah, I would say your best bet is to open a community forum ticket. I'm going to talk with the team. We'll have a stand-up right after this anyway, and I'm fairly confident we can talk about how to get the existing code that we're using for that further out there, because it was meant to be to begin with. We just haven't, we didn't quite have anybody that needed it yet. But yeah, we'll talk with the team and confirm what the best path is to sort of show off how that is done.
Okay, so just to clarify,
so
just
open
a community forum ticket.
Yeah, and tag me in it as well on community.jitsi.org. You can tag Aaron K. Van Meerten, and then I'll see it and I'll take it to help you out there.
All right, thank you. Okay.
And probably the real to-do will be lots more READMEs and lots more, documentation, and that may take some time. But I'm happy to help you with your custom case for now.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I'll do this.
Yeah, I've just following up on that. Like I've seen a lot of configuration across a bunch of different modules, like the Slack module, and I think in Jitsi, where it describes different, so the URL pattern, for example, as well as the JWT token structure for supporting subdomains and multi-tenancy. I think one thing that has been confusing is I think it's also in the JWT token. I think in that auth module, the prosody auth module.
That's correct.
Is there's like two different ways. There's one kind of condition where like one approach, it seems like the room name or the username gets rewritten where it's subdomain in brackets.
Right. So there's a sort of internal and external representation of the muck based on this approach. It is definitely a hack. I'll acknowledge that. And so certain components like Jitsi that are sort of what we call on the inside, they're acting as components or at least clients to prosody separately, see it one way, whereas the Jitsi Meet clients and everything sort of outside the translation layer see it a different way, like Jitsi and such. So it is confusing, I agree, and I don't have a better way than we have today. I'm open to suggestions or even just say suggestions to improve the documentation.
Yeah, I think it was just knowing, I think what the missing piece, I think in terms of like the Nginx / config.js, I think would just to sort of like, I think that would explain.
Help
like
close the loop on the functionality.
Exactly,
absolutely. Yeah. That's an excellent point, and it's a point well taken, and we'll review it with the team. I think mostly we hadn't reviewed it not because it was our secret sauce, but because it's a little hackish, and we weren't sure we should be recommending that anybody do it. But now that we've been doing it for long enough, it's become the way. You know how these things can go. Yeah. So I'm happy to have it out there. I just need to talk through with everybody else so that we make sure everybody's happy to have it out there. Certainly, it makes sense that y'all would be confused about it. So we need an answer there, regardless.
Is the strategy? Does it use?
We try to keep.
Does it use one prosody, like one user for all the tenants, or does the strategy? It doesn't create multiple users in prosody, does it, per tenant?
No. Prosody users are actually only used for identifying some of these other components, like Jitsi logs in with the user, Jitsi does, Jibri does, but users as tenants come in with the JWT, which is sort of a different path. It means not a prosody username, but just a JWT that allows us to sort of have a special identity for them.
Yeah, I mean like a Jitsi one tenant.
Yeah, so yeah, the Jitsi will simply serve conferences in all the tenants, and it's pretty much agnostic to this.
Okay.
Dynamic tenants. Dynamic tenants.
Yeah, they're fully dynamic tenants. That's accurate. You don't have to register them in advance or anything.
Great.
That
sounds great.
Jitsi is deployed like that, so basically you can.
Yeah, we actually deployed. Except we won't trust any tokens you sign for it, so that means you can't really use it that way from the open source. But we at least have it as an example deployment.
Yeah, and we try to hide it as much as possible. So that's like an internal one module prosody thing. But as you have noticed, there were places that was not possible.
It slowly leaked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, great questions all. Well, follow up on that community forum post and also possibly follow up with some PRs to improve both the documentation and maybe publish these modules. Any other questions about that, or moving on to the next question?
All right, I have a completely unrelated question on the new bridge stuff. We're making a lot of progress on. I think we're just almost done with this recorder that leverages the JVB2. One little question is we're sort of forced to use the shims in a couple places. I think there's a point in the content shim. So in the old world, the content managed each, I guess, like an audio recorder for audio content, and a video recorder for the video content. I think it was kept sequestered. But at some point, there was this method called feed known SSRCs to synchronizer, where at the point that I guess the recorder was triggered, it would get all of the SSRCs from the channels. It wasn't really, there's no direct, I guess, in the channel shim. Like, I think there used to be something called, like, in the actual channel, like get SSRCs. Is there, can we just use get source groups instead, or get sources to get, like,
there's well, there's an event that fires that notifies about SSRCs, and that's
okay.
there's at receive SSRCs, that's kind of focused mainly at the receive side of things. But there's also, I can't remember exactly, but we feed everything everywhere, and because even on the send side, they need to know about that endpoint's SSRC groups too. So I'd look through. There's some events that you should be able to tap into that will notify about all the SSRCs.
Got it. So
I don't remember the specific method, but there should be something to get, I think, get what you need there.
Got it. So that's how we should do it. We should basically just be listening always for those events, and then okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's what all the pipelines do. So you'd have as much information as them, and they need it for all sorts of stuff. So that should be reliable.
Great. Okay, that sounds great. I think we're I think it's pretty close here.
Great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Questions?
ADF.
Hi guys. Hi.
Hello.
I have a question about iOS support. Sorry, not iOS. Safari support on Jitsi Meet, especially for the video. I know that now it's working for audio, but is there any plan to implement video support in libjitsi Meet for Safari, or what are the challenges? Is there any kind of issue that preventing implementing that?
Well, the issue is resources. So that's on our roadmap, and we'll be working on it. But there is no timeline right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
Certainly, we're open to PRs.
Okay, maybe yeah. I'll try it out. Then I might open a PR.
Cool. Or even just open questions. Like we're happy to get the feedback, and we're happy to answer some questions around it. It's just hard to dedicate the resources. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I saw there's an issue on GitHub on libjitsi Meet item 903. I'll follow that up. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you guys for attending this call, and see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Take care.